Colleagues, good afternoon. Yeah, I also want to say all protocol observed. I'm very glad that I had opportunity to listen to the input from the previous speakers, and I'm departing from this speech that I'd written. So bear with me, and I'll tell you why. Um, Something just reminded me, Guti. Utata Nelson Mandela, I used to watch how he got people to support his cause. He goes to Kunu, he invites them for lunch, he brings children, and when he finishes, he says, oh, they need schools, they need clinic, they need this, right at the end. I was checking with Becky that I'm beginning to feel uncomfortable where I'm sitting because those programs that are unfunded, only 15 people, that I just have a feeling, Becky, that we're going to leave this place here completely pickpocketed. So I am so glad you are here with me because all I can say to add the pressure on you that when it comes to my level, me, I'll sign. So if it doesn't happen, it's not me. So, and I will explain to the board member as to what we have done. The space for it to go. Yeah, that's. Uh, do I do recall that this organization was launched in Durban. The formal launch was in Durban back in 2005 or six, around then. The formal launch was one of the first conferences was there, and I have fond memories of attending that event. That was filled with black engineers who were very passionate but also patriotic and understood that our role is really beyond our narrow interest, and our role is also about changing society as we apply the trade. And I'm very happy to be back here and seeing that the society is still progressing along those lines and making strides. And perhaps it's also a reflection point for some of us to be saying, are we doing more to support you? As Elias said, you start by accusing people and then they move towards what you want them to do, and just bring us here, offers us the opportunity away from the noise to reflect on whether the ideals and the objective of the society are they sufficiently served or sufficiently supported by those of us who have positions of authority to influence, and whether with resources or just through advocacy from a point. And tonight, this afternoon, I'm very comforted that I had an opportunity to reconnect with this. We as Eskom obviously have a high concentration of engineers. As Eskom, we role model the fact that there's black excellence, and we understand that much as we have temporary challenges, it will not be strategic for us to be consumed completely by the present without taking a strategic view of where we're going. And perhaps in that space, we'll actually be more encompassing of what we need to. Thomas, are you listening? Yeah. So Thomas, so we have to get back into that fold of doing more for society and for the discipline than we do for ourselves only. I was a bit late, and I apologize for that. But a very big milestone was reached this morning. Eskom and Sasol signed a memorandum of understanding to collectively look at the opportunities of furthering each entity's strategies with regards to gas and the use of gas. For us, is gas to power as a transitional source. For them, is a continuation of some of the operations, but it's also about providing a solution for the intensive gas users within the country. I'm mentioning this because when you go back and look at what has changed fundamentally in the two organizations, is that they are led by engineers who are black, who understood and fully understand the importance of us as corporate citizens to solve the country's problems. And today we spend time, and the many journalists who were in there just could not understand, why are you doing this? And I had to keep on saying, we're doing this because our own corporate strategy aligns with what we are doing, and so the Sasol's one. But more importantly, we are resolving an energy issue from a gas perspective for the country. And it looked almost unusual that organizations of this magnitude that have had strategies and worked separately before could actually come for something that is for the good of the country. and it's all about leadership. It's about leadership. This could have been done 3 years ago, could have been done 5 years ago. It's only been done now, and you just have to ask yourself as to what has changed. And I leave it there. So I'm quite happy that we'll start seeing some shifts in this space, and of course, these shifts are some of them a little bit late, but never too late to be to be implemented. For me, looking at the theme for the session today, I thought one other aspect that we perhaps need to lift up is our own contribution as Eskom towards training, development, capacity building for the country. And it really starts off from dealing with primary school, middle school, high school students. Next week, as a matter of fact, we are going into our flagship program of Eskom Expo for Young Scientists. These programs have, over a number of years, produced some of our best brains from an engineering perspective. Despite our challenges financially as Eskom, we have maintained the momentum in ensuring that the regional programs do progress, leading up to the national event that takes place next year. The challenge that I had today is for us to really start focusing on how much retention do we have of the students as they come through the pipeline. And it also speaks to, how do we keep capacity for the country beyond just our narrow interests? How do we collaborate with others for us to ensure that we can expand our capacity for building skills? And it takes a little bit of effort beyond just all of us doing our duties on a daily basis, but understanding that that 10% more of our time that we spend is actually very meaningful for contribution towards the goodness of society and developing the right skills, skills that are generally behind driving the development of nations that are doing very well. And so we need to embrace that. And I think that along this line of march, you will have partners in us as Eskom. We will look deeply and do reflections around, how are we capacitating the country, and specifically, how are we capacitating the country in a manner that also breaks social barriers that are part of our historical legacies in the process. And we're not apologetic about it, so we'll have to do that. And welcome to the beginning of a new relationship with us, and a revived relationship as it is. This is on top of the fact that following the speech by me, Mapefo, I can only assume that you are actually going to put application forms for NSBE at her offices, so that the various people who are looking for streams must just sign up there rather than create new elements. I was asked to talk about the role of leadership in as far as the turnaround of Eskom is concerned. And I need to locate this within the context of what really transpired from 2023 prior to my return to the business. We have repeatedly emphasized the point that the outcome that we are seeing at Eskom is not a miracle. People instead of saying, using headlines, this is a miraculous turnaround. Now, engineers, we know that nothing can be miraculous. The laws of physics are very straightforward. You can find the basis in what is happening now by going back to the genesis of interventions that have been undertaken. And colleagues, this is very important. The generation recovery plan is really what is behind what you are seeing. That recovery plan, conceptualized in 2023, March or so, entailed a sit-down of this nature of technical people that are running the power stations together and under the leadership of a board to really look at what is paining us, what are big offenders, bad actors, how do we make shifts as quickly as possible to get the results that we want to see, and what are the enabling conditions that we need to create for us to get there. Very straightforward, and many of you in this room will understand it is very basic stuff for engineering trained minds. It's very basic stuff, but this is what it required. Why did it happen at that point? It happened at that point because for the very first time, after a very long period, the board of Eskom was comprised of the right skills mix. And it had appropriate number of engineers who were able to understand the challenges of this big engineering entity. And it is really from that point that you can start seeing when you have the right leadership at the right level within organizations, you start relating to the challenges that you have in a different manner, and you can start thinking about very pragmatic steps to identify solutions and have the discipline to execute. And Lwazi sits here very humbly at the corner, the vice president or deputy president of vice. No, I had they call Paul Mashitile vice last week, and I thought something changed. You go down as a deputy, you come back as a vice. Yeah, yeah. So you show the DP this video clip. I'm gonna take it. Yeah. So it's really the cohort of the board that Lwazi sits in that began to really look at the problems that were quite serious, but in a manner that was pragmatic from an engineering solution point of view, aided of course, and with the right input of the technical, staff members that we have that are engineers themselves, majority of them that are sitting at the power stations, and the next big step being the execution of that plan, which is what Becky came in to take it up with his operational experience and his people leading abilities to start driving disciplined execution of that plan. So there is nothing miraculous. There's nothing all of a sudden that happened with what you are seeing now. These are all calculated outcomes of a very clearly defined plan, and perhaps the issue must be, why did it take so long for the organization to devise such a plan when the country has engineers that could have done this at a different time? And there again, I leave this as an open question. When we have these capabilities, are we as a country placing the right people, within the right roles and challenges? And I think this is what the Elias was actually saying. And I know for a fact that the NSBE has been quite vocal about the issues of skill set and matching challenges and driving the country. And we need to do more of that. We need to start looking beyond. If it works here, and we have a template for it to work here, we understand what it takes for it to work here, why are we having the same problems elsewhere where we had opportunities to follow up with the same template as it comes? And what is the responsibility of those who are here now, considering the needs of the country and elsewhere where the challenges are sitting? And for that reason, I can tell you that our board and our management team is reaching out and connecting with those who are seeking to learn from what have we painfully gone through, and what lessons can we share for them to be able to leapfrog the challenge that we see there, because we take our jobs seriously and our responsibility with great enormity, considering that these are national issues for us to go. So leadership plays a very important role. The EXCO team of Eskom has got very competent engineers and competent other disciplines in it. It's important that this continues to be the case for us to be able to ensure that we don't go back to where we are. Otherwise, we end up in the cycles of good performance and bad performance. We cannot afford to do that. We cannot afford to fall back, because we need to defend the next key issue for Eskom, which is essentially crafting its future. The continued period of load shedding that is dragged on over a long period meant that Eskom was not at the right tables to discuss the future of electricity industry reforms. In many respects, and you'll know yourselves here, Eskom could not participate in the renewable programs. Eskom was told that the renewable programs are for the private sector, and it must focus on solving its problems. And what actually happened is that private sector moved in, dominated the space at the exclusion of Eskom. The implications are that Eskom, which is sitting and located within communities, has 41,000 employees or so on, has to tackle the issue of what's going to happen to the economic activities associated with this transition without Eskom being party to it. And there I say the majority of those private sector players that occupy the space that Eskom was not allowed to enter are actually national utilities coming from Europe that have diversified into that path and are operating in our backyard. And these are the realities that we are facing. We have taken a decision as the Eskom board that we will now intensify our participation in renewables. We'll do so proactively to enable a very organized and coordinated transition. because also the people that we serve, the majority of them who are poor, cannot afford to have own solutions of accessing clean power. And when we are committed to clean power for all, to power for all, we should equally be committed to clean power for all. And so Eskom needs to be playing in that space with the requisite levels of competitiveness. And that pressure of competitiveness and operational efficiencies comes back to us. It's our responsibility of management, and we hear the call from the average customers that we need to be driving those costs down, and we're focusing on that aspect. But we shall be in that space. We will be acting in that space much more than we were allowed to do before. The next part that is also important in leadership, which I've not really touched a lot on thus far, is the issue of our staff. Leadership without followers is not, it's non-existent. The bulk of the performance that you are seeing is because leadership recognized the importance of our staff. We've invested a lot of time in the area of connecting with our staff, showing them our vision, and getting them to want to get to it. And once you get to that point, you have very little work to do because our people are motivated. Not that our people were not motivated enough already, because many of them took personal pain at the fact that the country was being load shed. We understood that what that was doing to the economy, to our families, and to average South Africans. For that matter, when you connect that personal self-drive that individuals within Eskom had with a very clear role, clear direction in terms of the vision, you begin to find some magic. And you can just imagine the understanding that there's a clear path beyond the existing operations that we have itself presents a mindset that allows people to be present and begin to apply themselves, let alone the fact that the naysayers use all this negativity to even undermine the competencies of our staff. Eskom remains one of the most sought after employers from an engineering experience perspective. It has done this for many, many years. It remains the one place with extensive presence of technical skills. Our plans are to get it to retain its position in society as it was before. We cannot finish this conversation without talking about the cost of electricity. And many of you in the coming weeks will be engaging in various conversations around what is the right price increase and tariffs and so on. We have done what is necessary in terms of ensuring that the business does not go back and slip back into a space of financial uncertainty, which impacts on long-term planning, that impacts on reliability of our assets in the long term. But we are also not deaf. And so we will be engaging. We are silent for now in terms of how we have approached this latest application. We will be engaging as soon as NERSA opens up the process. We'll engage more meaningfully and show where we come from, and we'll engage with intent to find a solution that is that is a win-win for all South Africans. We sit here today at 177 days without load shedding. This week, or since last week, we actually did not have contribution into our grid from 2 units at Quebec. Other than a little noise made by a few individuals, you wouldn't have known sitting in here. And that's how the a power system needs to be. That when you have such kind of incidents, you can actually ride the wave without the noise that needed to be made by a few individuals. The bottom line is that our performance has improved substantially. It allows us to be able to absorb the shocks. Of course, we want to excel and continue to be well ahead of where we need to be, but we have now tangible empirical data that the progress is not a fake. This progress, backed by some 12 billion rands of savings year on year in relation to, with regards to the use of diesel or diesel costs, is a testimony to the work that the engineers in Eskom are doing towards the recovery of our units. So we remain a center and a force to be reckoned when it comes to engineering performance. And we will continue to ensure that we go back to that space as soon as possible, because for us, the ending of load shedding is just the beginning in terms of the normalization of our operations and addressing the country's issues. What's more important for us is how do we craft the next Eskom, the Eskom of the next 100 years, that will play is a very critical role in the supply side, but also very critical role in the liberalizing distribution business that we are entering, employing technology and also responding very differently to almost individualized customer needs. That's where we're driving towards that point. So in conclusion, I just want to reemphasize the results that you are seeing at Eskom are not an accident, they're not a miracle. They come from a very strong engineering basis of assessing what the challenge is and a very deliberate plan of supporting interventions, enabling interventions, be they financial, human resource-wise as well, to ensure that we can move the performance that we didn't like before to where we are seeing it. We are sustaining that. Our aim is to embed this and change the ways of working going forward, so we have a very different organization from this part. And in closing off, Mr. President, I just want to assure the NSBE of our support. We know we have our own employees who are members. I've spoken to Becky here. He says he can't wait to partner you in programs that ensure that we expand the training capabilities that we have. We have also heard that we have candidates who require exposures for them to fulfill their academic requirements. We are going to go back because Thomas there can't wait to have more hands to help him in his plan. And we will be a partner to NSBE, and we want to thank NSBE for its continued support on various platforms. So thank you very much, Philip.